Welcome back to day 2 of Compositing 101 with Aaron Nace here on Creative Live. We are going to get right back into it. Welcome back to day 2 of Compositing 101 with Aaron Nace here on Creative Live. We're going to get back into it, but first we're going to give away our first prize of the day. And that prize is going to be a $149 value prize, which is the Pro Retouching Pack from Phlearn.com. You want to tell us about it?
Right on. Well, as you know, this week is all about Compositing 101, and that's one of the many cool things you can do with Photoshop. But one of the other things you can do is retouching, and that's basically taking a person who looks like me and making them look incredible.
Like me.
Like
Wait,
you could take this and make it look like this. And that's basically what retouching is all about. You see retouching basically everywhere, in every magazine, on every single cover these days. No images go to print without being retouched. And retouching pack, this one we're giving away, is basically a different pack that shows you many different techniques on how to retouch. So it can take basically from a snapshot all the way to a finished, perfect, quote-unquote, image. And the pack is really, really cool.
Absolutely. And the person who is winning that is Hemel Mamtora, whose Twitter handle is Hemel_Mamtora. The quote that they entered was, "Without being weird, we wouldn't have any of the creativity, so it's all right to be weird. There's space for everything."
Oh.
I love it. It was great. And remember that everyone out there is a winner because they are generously offering a 25% discount on anything at Phlearn.com with the code PHLEARNCL25. So be sure to use that, and also be sure to keep tweeting and entering, as we will be giving away more throughout the day. But let's get right back into it.
Perfect. Welcome back from the break, guys. Today we're going to be talking, well, today in part 2, we're going to go ahead and start bringing in our subjects and working around the lighting and things like that. Now, over the break, we did make just a couple of changes with our lighting. You might see back here, instead of having a C-stand right back here, we just pushed it back further. So it's the same light that's actually hitting our light up here. It's just the C-stand is hidden. So we are going to be compositing this in and out of the shot. It was just a little bit easier of a composite without having that C-stand in there. The light back there changed as well. We did increase our aperture just, I think, a third of a stop on our camera because we wanted to lower the amount of light that was coming from our overhead light here. Earlier we talked about that being one of the strategies that you could actually use to lower the amount of light that's coming down. You can change your aperture and that's going to work as well. We just didn't want to get on a ladder and then change that again. I think we did that enough times. So we did bring that down. At the same time, we had to make sure we had enough fill light coming from our light that's now, instead of pointing against the back wall, it's pointing against the side wall, so we brought that up just a little bit. So we can go ahead and take a frame. And John, you want to come here and throw some clothes around? And we can just throw it right around over here. And then we'll go ahead and take a frame and see what our shot looks like now. And then we can pull up a before and the after. So it should be relatively similar. We've just got like a little bit tighter of a lighting ratio. So this is not going to be as bright or as hot, and our fill is going to come up just a little bit. So we can go ahead and see the before and after with that. All right, we ready?
Ready? Let me just get
I'll capture it whenever you throw it.
1, 2, 3.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to continue working with our lighting as we go along. It's not 100% where we want it to be just yet, but I think it's definitely getting there. So our goals here are to make sure that this is a well-lit image. We don't want anything to look overexposed. We don't want anything to look underexposed. And we do want to call attention to certain objects in this image, making sure that we do actually get the attention that we want. So we're still getting these relatively hard shadows. You can see they're not, oh, that's me taking a picture right there. That's pretty cool. You can see that they're not as dark as they were earlier, and that's because of our fill light. Our fill light is going to brighten up the darkness of all of our shadows in our entire image. We're going to change our set around a little bit, make it look a little bit more organic. Now, there is another option for this glare that we see here in this photo, and the final option is just take care of it in Photoshop. If someone's in a frame like this and you want to get them out in Photoshop, well, that's another element of what we can do with frame compositing. You can take one shot with maybe someone's in the camera, another shot with like a gray card up there right there, which is going to eliminate the shadow there. So that's another thing you can do with compositing in the frame composites. Just, you know, any little area that you see like that, just keep a mental note of it and say, okay, now we need to make sure we take at least one picture where there is not a reflection, or maybe the door is open just a little bit to take care of that. So we're going to go ahead and bring our... We did bring another light in, didn't we? All right. The next light we brought in, we talked about bringing this in the first section, in the first section, and this is just a strip box, which is literally right there, and that's going to be shining in this direction. The power of this is it's balanced basically with the light we have here, so it's going to provide a little bit of a rim on our subjects that are going to come through, and if we do wind up opening these doors, it's going to just provide a little bit of illumination on those as well. So the power hasn't really been dialed in yet, but that light is there to kind of come in. So we're going to continue working on that through this part of it. So the first part basically was getting the scene set up to where it looks like pretty good. It's not like the most dynamic scene ever, but I think it's like set up in a decent way to allow for the movement and the actual action that we want happening in the scene. And then the second part is building our lighting with our subjects in there. So if you guys want to come on over.
Come through either side.
We've got the beautiful Hannah here. Say hello to everyone. I guess you'd have to, they're not mic'd up, so you'd have to yell. And this is Sean, and this is Lee. So Lee's going to be in the background here, reading something like Cat Monthly magazine or whatever we whipped up. I'm not sure. And Sean's going to be our subject. Sean, you're actually going to be levitating. And you can see right here, this is about where you're going to be. And the whole idea is that it's a little bit of a love story. So your clothes have decided that they're not going to allow you to be washed by... Todd, you want to hand me that almost clean laundry detergent that Kaleo, the set designer, built? This is almost clean, which is usually 36 ounce-ish, which is very, very cool. So this is what you tried to wash your clothes with here, was the almost clean. Your clothes, basically, they saw that you're trying to wash them with the almost clean and decided instead they wanted to be washed with Wash 'N Suds, which is of course, a much superior brand of laundry detergent. And so you're going to be holding the Wash 'N Suds. We have both a bottle made up as well as a box made up. And so your clothes basically decided that they don't want to be washed with that. They want to be washed with this. So they're coming out of the washing machine, and they're literally picking you up off of the ground, and they're pushing you towards Hannah, who's going to be holding this detergent. So it's a double love story. It's your clothes wanting to be washed by this, and it's the introduction to the man and the woman of the hero shot in a story. So imagine your really cheesy romantic comedy. This is kind of like the makings of it. I think that happens, like romantic comedies, like people meet in laundromats kind of a lot in romantic comedies, don't they? So kind of works. And then we've got Cat Monthly magazine in the background. And Lee, that's a very important role in this because we do want this to be like a realistic looking shot in a laundromat. There probably would be, you know, more than just, you know, our two main subjects in here. So having you guys in the background, and if we have, we do have opportunities. So, you know, anyone here in the studio audience, if you wanted to take a frame, you know, sitting in the background, maybe perusing Cat Monthly magazine as well, we could do that too. So we're going to go ahead and get you guys in place. During this segment, it's going to be a lot of like continuing to test our lighting and things like that, and then testing some things out. You're actually going to be levitating in the final shot, and we have some ideas on how we're going to do that. We threw around the idea of having you like jump. We were going to bring in a crash pad here to have you jump on it, but I think we're going to have you be on a stool. We're going to take some pictures of you on the stool, and then take some pictures without the stool, and then replace those using compositing. So that's the whole concept. So Lee, do you want to follow me, and you can just hang out back here? And oh, looks like someone drew. We got to get a close-up of this because this is just awesome. Who drew this on there? There we go. I'm covering the logo with my hand that does not say Friskers, but that's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's our close-up of the Cat magazine, Cat Monthly. There we go. So which chair do you want? Either one. We're just going to.
If you get hungry.
Yeah, and we're. Yes, please. We are going to be bringing in Fruit Loopies from yesterday. We want those as a prop. And there's some also hidden gems from you guys at home and in the studio audience. Back here, you might notice there are a couple like hidden gems that we like to throw in some of our photo shoots. So it's just kind of those fun little Easter eggs. So we're going to kind of like move these around. And right now, it's not really as important exactly where everything is for these shots. This is probably going to wind up being somewhere around there. It's maybe going to is hopefully not block a whole lot of stuff. Is that okay there? Cool. So we want some like foreground elements in this too, because we wanted to make sure that it actually winds up looking real. So Hannah, you're probably going to be right about here, and you're going to be the Wash and Suds girl. Your role is kind of like, think of like, Flo from the Progressive commercials. Or can I say that on air? There's no logo, right? So that's kind of like your role in this. You're like the spokesman for Wash and Suds, a spokeswoman for Wash and Suds laundry detergent. And then Sean, you're going to be right over here. So you're going to be right here. Let's go ahead and pull in. We have a stool that you're going to be levitating on, but for a minute we're just going to have you sit on this stool, and eventually we're going to have you wind up holding this in the air and spilling it out while you are levitating. So it's kind of heavy. We might should go ahead and open this up and spill some of it out.
Here, I'll take it.
As like a preliminary spill. All right, so now we have our subjects in the actual scene, and we're going to start taking some pictures. So if you guys want to hang tight, this is going to be incredibly exciting for the next few minutes. But what we're going to do is basically get our lighting like kind of dialed in. So as you guys are just kind of hanging out there, we're going to make sure our lighting, what looks like good on the scene, is going to look good on you guys as well. All right, so let's take some pictures, because I have no idea what it's going to look like. We just brought a bit. Perfect. So we're looking out for a couple of things here. We want to make sure that, I don't know where to stand anymore. We want to make sure of a couple things that are going to happen in this shot. You can see here that we can't even see Lee right now because she's being like completely blocked by Hannah. So Lee, if you want to move over to this chair, that would be good. So these are the kind of things that we're doing here. Maybe Hannah, if you want to come a little bit more forward, she's supposed to be the leading character in this shot. And yeah, Lee, you look pretty good. Let's have you scoot over this way just a little bit. There we go. And maybe rotate your feet over towards Hannah. So what we're doing is trying to like basically figure out a rough positioning of all of our subjects at this point. We're still going to be doing some work with our lighting to make sure that everything does come together. Now, when we actually start like the composite and start, the levitation and everything like that, that section is going to go relatively quickly because we have a lot of options, and we're just going to be like levitating and throwing stuff in the air. So that part of it is going to go pretty quick, but before we get to that, we just want to make sure that we do quite a bit to kind of get prepped for that. So let's take another shot and see how we're looking here. I suppose I could just get Alec to do it, right? Okay, if you don't mind. Right on. Let's see how this looks, but then I'll be in the frame. All right. We solved a problem and then created another problem. So what we did is we moved Hannah and Lee, but Hannah is still blocking Lee. Very nice. So let's try this instead. I'm going to clear this area here, and there we go. Lee, I'm going to have you kind of sitting back here if you don't mind. I'm going to put you in that chair right there. All right, let's take another shot, and I'll just get out of the frame. Alec, if you want to go ahead and pop off a frame. There we go. And just like with the first section, that the laundry cart might be blocking Lee in this case. No, it's not too bad. Maybe this will be your laundry cart. Look at that. I love it. I want to talk about a couple of things which I think are pretty interesting in this case. Okay. First, a couple of things. By having Lee back there, it adds to the scene a little bit. I think I want to bring in more subjects. I think it would make it even more interesting. The other really cool thing, in my opinion, is that it gives a little bit of depth to this image. So earlier we had a question about adding depth to this image. Well, people are a really good indicator of scale. Before we had Lee back there, the scale wasn't as apparent, but now we really can see the depth because we have a subject who's obviously quite a bit larger in the foreground and quite a bit smaller in the background. So giving that depth in the photo lets you really get a sense of the space itself. All right, now our lighting, I'm going to take some questions and comments and concerns of your guys' from the lighting with our subjects in place. What do you guys think? Are you able to see what's going on? Yeah.
Okay, so in response to this side light you have over this strip bank off to camera, right? You're a little close, so obviously you're kind of blown out a bit. But I don't know that it's affecting him that much, if it's reaching him or not.
Right, that's a really good point.
You may be in the way.
I might totally just be in the way. So maybe why don't we take a frame without me in the way, and then we'll decide on that. So I'll just get way out of there. Alec, if you don't mind, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go back to Chicago. You guys can take it from here. All right, so that rim light is, I'm not looking for like the harshest rim in the world. This is not supposed to be something that's like, you know, a Jill Greenberg type of portrait or anything like that. I just wanted to make sure we do have some definition coming from that side of the photograph. But I do think we could pump it up just a little bit. So I'm going to bring up the power just a little bit. And I'm also going to point it farther outwards. So I don't necessarily want it hitting my washing machines here, because it's going to like create a hot spot here on my washing machine. So although it's pointed outwards, it might look like it's going to miss Sean, but light tends to feather out. So it should still wind up hitting Sean. Good suggestion.
So Aaron, so where he's at, I'm assuming that's where we're going to want him to levitate. That's why we set him right there.
Pretty close, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. And we don't really know this at this point. He might be here, he might be a little bit forward, but once he starts to levitate, I mean, if we get the shot to where it looks pretty good here, and then he levitates here, and we're like, no, it really doesn't look good. He should come closer to Hannah or farther away. That's something that we'll have to kind of adjust that as it goes on. Just like yesterday when we got it like pretty close, and then we like threw in some more ideas, and we had to change things on the fly. So it'll be a lot like that as well. All right. What else do we think about the shot and the lighting in general? We pretty happy with everything? No other comments? Okay. To me, there's a little bit of perspective distortion. Well, this we can't even see in the frame, can we? Maybe we'll pull this right back behind you here. There's a little bit of perspective distortion going on with Hannah here. So that tells me a couple of things. Basically, because she's towards the edge of our frame, she's going to get that perspective distortion. So if I don't want as much perspective distortion, I've got to either like zoom in a little bit so we're not shooting as wide, or I'm going to have to shift my camera angle over a little bit, or we're going to have to pull her into the actual frame. Now there's a TV right next to her, so shifting the camera angle over that way is probably not going to work. So I might just have you kind of step in just a little bit. There we go, and we're going to take a shot there. We can always zoom in our camera angles a little bit, and it depends on which of these washing machines we want. I think for the story, it'll wind up making sense if this door is open. We can go ahead and start throwing some clothes in there. John, if you want to do it, why not?
Sure.
There's some clothes right over there and over
he
here.
brought some of his own, too.
Are these your clothes here? We're using Sean's actual clothes for this. These are not prop clothes. These are his real clothes, everybody. Which is, I think, anytime you're going to be doing something like this, it makes sense. These were his real clothes. Are these dirty or clean?
Half and half.
Half and half. For a guy, it's pretty much always half and half, isn't it? Right? Like, yeah, this smells okay. I'll wear it a couple more days. It's half and half. Perfect. I'm going to take a shot right here so we can see. I'm going to check things like our perspective again, as well as everything that's going on in the background. Now, I think Lee's getting a decent bit of light. She's not too underexposed or anything like that, which is nice. We're seeing a little bit less perspective distortion here with Hannah, and we'll just start, working with our framing just a little bit more. So we want to make sure we include some elements in the foreground as well as some in the background. And I'm not totally opposed to, maybe if we had this up here, I'm really not that opposed to, even if we wanted like one of the audience members to kind of like be sitting in the foreground, like off to the left side or something like that, reading a magazine as well. That would give it even more depth. So do we want to try that out? Does anyone feel like doing it? Miguel, you want to come on? You just use the chair you've got there and come on over here, and I'll tell you when to stop. So this is going to give it depth. And whenever you're doing something like this, although the whole goal today is maybe just right over there. I might have to tell you to move because I can't see what the camera sees right now. But we want to make sure, yeah, you can be playing on your phone. That's totally just don't actually play on your phone. Oh, yeah. I want you to pay attention. Write lighting diagram notes on this now. But having this little bit of depth, although this is totally a compositing image, we want to make sure like that it has that like feeling of depth and everything like that that you would normally have in a photo shoot. So I'm going to just look behind the camera here real quick and hopefully be able to frame this up just a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit tighter. I think that I think we can handle that. And all right, there we go. And Miguel, if I can have you come in like quite a bit, actually. Yeah. Even more. You're still pretty far out of frame. Yep. There we go. Continue to scooch over, and I hope this is not going to interrupt with our cameras and everything. Come on, just like 6 inches. 6 inches towards the hosts, if you don't mind. All right. There we go. And back just like 2 or 3 inches. There we go. Pretty cool. So basically, we've got like just feet in the shot right now, and let's take a picture and we can see what that looks like as well. So right now we've built up from a shot that's relatively static to something that's quite a bit more dynamic. With now we can see there is quite a bit more depth going on. Sorry, I'm blocking you guys, aren't I? That's what happens on a tight set. So we've got quite a bit more of a dynamic set going on. Instead of it just looking like we've got 2 subjects here, now we've got someone in the foreground, which is, they're obviously big. We've got Lee there in the background, which is obviously quite a bit smaller, and we've got the depth going on. And that's just going to help kind of like make everything look a little bit more realistic, and like the camera is capturing this moment in time rather than everyone's posing for the camera. And with my own work, that's something that I definitely try for. So this is, I think we're off to a great start. Because I'm looking at the TV, it's a little bit hard to tell my exposure. It looks a little bit overexposed. What do you guys think? Here in the audience, maybe a little bit? We have another monitor here where I'm just gonna kind of bend down and look at this other monitor. It doesn't look as overexposed looking at this other monitor. But I am gonna try to do some other interesting things. Let's bring our aperture up. Maybe we're at f7.1 right now. I'm gonna change our aperture to f8. There we go, and let's try taking a picture. All right, so that should help it a little bit here. Now, if we are underexposed a little bit too much, we can always change that. We can change that after the fact. We can bring it up just a tiny bit in Photoshop. Usually, I do like to get my, that changed quite a bit, didn't it? Okay, so usually I do like to get my exposures pretty right straight out of camera. So it's looking a little bit dark there, and it looks okay here, kind of balancing things out. Let's say we want it a little bit more interesting. We want a little bit more separation between the foreground and the background. Well, that would be a good time to put our light, that if you guys remember from the last section, our light back there, we could make that a little bit brighter, and that's going to give us a little bit of separation back there. Or we could make it darker, and that would give us separation as well. So, John, what do you think? Let's make that light quite a bit lighter. Maybe bump it up a stop or half a stop back there. And we can see how that's going to work out. Didn't think you were going to be able to get in this picture, huh?
Hey, it's all good. I'm just a tool for your tool.
I've been called a tool before too. What does it mean?
Want to try
It
that?
sound good? Oh, dang. Perfect. All right, so that light is a little bit brighter back there. Let's see what we think. I'm gonna just hang out. This is pretty comfortable on here. I'm gonna hang out here for just a little bit. Yeah, let's pump that up just a little bit more, John, if you don't mind. It's kind of giving our shot a little bit more interest, that light coming from the back wall.
Try that.
All right, cool. What this is also going to do, if it does in fact, the light does in fact wrap around and hit our subject, what it's going to do is it's going to wind up giving our subjects just a little bit of a rim or a backlight too. Yeah. Can we see how it's kind of evolving? It went from something that's pretty flat and it's just getting a little bit more interesting. There we go. Now we really can see the evolution of it, can't we? Let's go with the top right and the bottom right, if you don't mind, Mike. Top right and bottom right. There we go.
Hey, Aaron.
Yes.
Who is your focus in this image? Is it Hannah or Sean?
Good point. Is that the focus of the camera itself? I don't know, because I haven't started focusing yet. But right now,
I like to hear that. I mean, that's You're not worried about that. Right
I haven't
now.
started
At this point
yet,
in the
yeah.
image, you're not worried.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably not going to wind up using these frames in the final, unless we want to go for something that's a little bit. I mean, this would actually be a little bit closer to some, especially with Hannah holding that laundry detergent there. That reminds me of some photographers' work that I've seen, where people are standing in places looking a little bit awkward. No offense, but it looks like you're getting ready for a photo shoot. And I've seen a lot of great photos that have that kind of look to them. In this case, I don't think it's really what we're going for, but I really haven't started focusing. But when I do decide to focus, so I'm shooting right now at 35 millimeters. I'm also shooting at f8, so quite a bit is going to be in focus. I don't know if we could, Mike, would you mind zooming in on our subjects here, on the rightmost image? And we can zoom in there on Sean's face and see if he's in focus. He looks pretty much in focus, right? Let's zoom in on Lee's face. Lee's back there. She looks pretty much in focus. And let's try zooming in on Hannah. She looks pretty much in focus. And let's try even on Mike's foot. Let's see what that looks like as well. Yeah, there we can see we're starting to lose a little bit of focus, but it's really... Did I just call you Mike? I'm sorry, Miguel. I'm sorry. This is not Mike. Mike is in the back control room. I'm sorry, Miguel. So we can see, although I really haven't started worrying about focus, because I'm shooting at 35 millimeters at f8, we got a pretty deep focal plane here. I am going to go ahead and focus on Sean because he is supposed to be our main subject, Sean and Hannah, and they're on about the same focal plane from the camera, so those are going to be my focuses. So I'm going to just move the camera right over. Focus here on, there we go. We're going to focus on Sean, and then I'm going to move the camera right back over. So once I decide, there we go, this is looking pretty good. Once I decide that this is pretty much the framing that I want, I'm going to do my best. You can see the camera did move just a little bit there. I'm going to do my best to really not move the camera a whole lot because that's going to change, like if I move the camera, just like that comment earlier, that's going to change what's going on with our composite and being able to do that compositing later. Yeah, I think let's, what do you guys think? Is the frame is it too crowded? Could we fit one more person beside Lee, or do you like her being there alone? What do you guys think? Do we have any suggestions coming from the internet on composition and how we might make this a little bit more dynamic or interesting?
Gaudis is saying, what if we change Miguel's position and we take a picture like the camera is behind him for a different perspective?
So the camera coming over here.
I think maybe have Miguel over here and shooting over his shoulder.
Yeah, right on. You want to come on over? We'll try it. I'm always down for suggestions. And the best thing about, suggestions is, all right, cool. So you were like right in the frame. See just the side of your shirt, and we'll see what we like better. So the great thing about this sort of stuff is when we're just starting off, I mean, there's really no harm at all in just trying these things out. It's just trying them out, like, do we like this or not? Yeah, I'm not totally opposed to that, but I liked that I could see. Can we pull up maybe, Mike, the side by side with these? And there we go. What do we think as a studio audience? The left one? Okay. Yeah, I like that we can tell that it's a human. This is just kind of like a amorphous blob. And, well, yeah. You're going to be called a lot of names today, Miguel. Amorphous blob, Mike, tool. Let's get you back over there if you don't mind. All right, there we go. And I'll have you pull in just a little bit. There we go, perfect. And go ahead and lean back, and then you can play with your phone, cross your legs, or whatever it is that you want to do. Perfect. There we go. And I'm just going to frame it up, and there we are. All right, so I think we're looking pretty good. And at this point, I don't know whether it's crowded or whatnot. Actually, could you come forward just a little bit towards me? There we are. Perfect. So we might stick someone else back there with Lee, if we don't mind. John, you want to get back there? Yeah, right on.
How about if we grabbed Amanda? I know we had talked about that. Our dear producer, Amanda.
I know that I would
calling her out right now. And
love if Amanda was in here. She's not in the room right now.
That's a fantastic idea.
She's got
And
better hair than I do.
And Amanda's hair looks fantastic
totally
today,
agree.
so
Amanda's
it's
hair
even
looks
better.
so good today.
Doesn't
It looks
though?
beautiful. I don't know how she does it.
It's like this is the beacon of what good hair could be.
As Amanda walks in, she says, "Really?" And I say,
Really?
"Yes, Amanda.
Yes.
Really."
Amanda, would you mind taking the seat with John back there? Sorry, John, I'm actually going to have to displace you here.
That's good.
The vote is in and you're out. I apologize. Hey, if you could
Give you
scooch
some
a little
more
bit
color
closer to
stuff.
Lee, that would be great.
Do we have to cover the logo on your? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, and then John, you can kind of be, back there. Just stand back there and stare at the camera like, oh, what's going on? There we go. I love that frame. Okay, perfect. So what we can see here is, let's go ahead and, there we go. Yeah, John, why not? We'll have you right there. What we're going for here is a balance of, making sure the image looks populated, but not having it too much, not having like too much in the shot. And John, I think at this point, we might have you come back out if you don't mind.
No, I was trying to get out.
Perfect. And yeah, what do you guys think? We'll put it to a vote. Did we like with just Lee back there? Or let me take another shot. Amanda, can you scooch a little bit closer to Lee? And then rotate sort so your laptop is facing more in that direction. Yep, there we go. Perfect. There we go. Like you don't want Lee to see that you're also reading Cat Monthly magazine, but you have the online copy.
There was also a suggestion, I didn't catch who it was from, that one of our background people be eating a bowl of Fruit Loopies with the same expression as Sarah had yesterday.
I really
don't know if we have a bowl of
love
Fruit
that
Loopies,
idea.
unfortunately.
We
but-
do still have the Fruit Loopies box back there. If we could put that on display, I love that sort of stuff. And that's like, with photography and this sort of stuff, like there are really no rules, right? Like, why not do it? And I think that's what. I've met a lot of photographers who they've been doing it for a while, and sometimes they can fall out of love with photography, and I think it's because they stop including things like Fruit Loopies in their photos, or so if you can have the fun and if you can do these crazy things, like why not do it? Like that's the whole point. That's why we're photographers, is to be able to create these amazing, silly things that make you happy.
Is there any milk left from the pool?
I love all the detail that is placed into the images. It reminds me of those games that you can play on the computer or even in print, where it's like, find the 100 items in this photo. And it just makes it so much more interesting because your eye wants to swim around in the image and engage with it more. So
I
it's
totally
really
agree.
cool.
I love those games. So let's talk about a couple of things that are looking good here. How's our lighting looking back here on our subject? I think it's pretty decent, right? They're in the background, but it is still looking pretty good. I think the shadows are definitely working here. Now, earlier we talked about this, that's going to stay in frame for pretty much almost the entire photo shoot, guys. The control arm here and the light that's shining this light here, that's going to stay in frame. Not a big deal because we are using frame compositing. So all I need is one picture with that knot right there, and I can then composite it out. So not a huge deal there. We're looking. Is there anything distracting? Audience members, I'm going to get on the other side of the TV here. What's distracting in the frame? Anything that you feel is like a little bit off?
I will say that the only thing that I see that draws me is I'm drawn to the brightest sections in the picture, obviously, and the washing machines would be that, but they're part of the subject matter, so that's not a problem. The basket at Amanda's feet in the background seems a little bright to me.
Seems a little bit bright. Okay.
I'm not saying it's bright. It just drew my attention, and I don't think you want me to look back there so much as in the foreground.
That's a good point. You know what I think it is? And I agree with you. I think it's this red. I think it's the saturation of the red that's drawing my eye back there. So let's maybe we can remove the red object. There we go. And you just throw it to me, and yeah, we'll bury it under some of these clothes here. That's a really good point. So we've already got Hannah here, which she's wearing this bright red dress. We obviously want to look. I mean, that's why we asked her to wear this bright red dress. We want to be looking right here at Hannah. So we don't want anything distracting. To me, this like kind of bar that's coming up here is a little bit distracting as well. It's kind of like cutting right through Amanda there. So the way to get around that is just to take this little laundry hamper that we have and just rotate that around as well.
I think also the vertical or the horizontal support on the basket that's right behind you, it's coming right out of the side of the model's head. And also it's cutting off the sign, so.
Yeah, totally, right? That doesn't work well. So let's bring it more forward, and if we can bring it more forward, it might actually wind up framing some things pretty nicely. You definitely don't want things sticking out of your model's head. If you didn't happen to catch that during this part of the photo shoot, we could always move that later as well. All right. So I totally agree. Is there anything else? How's our lighting looking? Do we maybe go like a half stop brighter on the background just to get a little bit more contrast back there? Or what do you think? Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. John, would you mind? Maybe a quarter stop to a half stop. But all in all, I feel like our image is already coming together. It is decently well lit. In other words, like we don't have like harsh shadows and things like that on any different parts of our image. It's still relatively interesting what's going on here. And we have basically the hard shadows that we talked about building in earlier for our key light, which we built up. So it's pretty cool. I think this is going to be it is going to be a cool image. It already is a cool image. We haven't done any levitation yet. All right, are we ready to start?
And Josh actually pointed out that once we've got levitating clothes carrying a man, the focus will probably be on that.
Yeah, probably. Probably be on the fact that, we're doing levitation. That's insane. Levitation isn't real. It only exists in fairy tales. All right, I know we just changed out our batteries on our camera, so I think that the tether might have... Okay, I'll just wait one moment. Cool. Whatever you guys need me to do, I'm here for you. All right. I can just talk. So we do have a subject, and this is a really good point of our frame compositing as well. Amanda, who works here, and she's awesome, is in this part of the photo shoot. Now, if she has to go actually do her job at any point during this photo shoot, she says she's good, but if she did have to leave, we already have pictures of her. Now, as long as the camera doesn't move, and as long as we don't move any of these props in a crazy way, then we have that picture of her. She could go, do her thing, and she would be able to be in the final image just as she is now. So that's a really, really cool part about frame compositing. So you can do this in let's say you were in a laundromat or something like that, and you wanted a another person to be in your photograph. You could say, hey man, you want to come and be in this photo for a minute? And they could come and sit down, be like a second in the photo shoot, come in there for a couple of frames, and then they could go about their day, and they could be included in the final. So it would be a cool way to have basically 20 or 30, let's say you wanted 20 or 30 models in your final photo. As long as you're going for a shot that looked like it was supposed to be real people in it, you could bring a couple of these people in for just a little bit of time, then have them back out. That way you don't have to pay someone a couple $100s or whatever it is to feel like they're modeled for the entire day. They just come in, get them to sign a little release, they can go back out, and that's pretty much the shot. So another really cool way about frame compositing is you can save money during a photo shoot and for the production. The other way to do it is to use audience members as your as your subjects, which is really cool. All right, I think we're pretty much close to go as far as frame compositing, and are almost clean and set up. And I think we're looking really good. Do we have any more comments from here, or anyone on the internet?
I think we're good at the moment.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm just going to step over here. Right on. Let's see if the tether capture is back up and running. There we go. If I need to, I can help out with technical assistance here.
There it is.
All right, perfect. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so did we solve some of our problems? We definitely solved the problem with this frame that was kind of coming out of Hannah's head. We solved our problem with this little area that's blocking our subject, Amanda. Adding a little bit more light in the background, I feel did help out a little bit because it's bringing some of this shadow from the background. It's just making a little bit more interesting and giving the image some depth. I apologize, I'm blocking the screen for you guys. Giving it a little bit more depth, and I think that everything does work pretty well. I agree that it's still kind of blocking that sign just a little bit, so maybe we could move it over in this way just a little bit. But yeah, other than that, I think we're off to a really good start, and this is exactly where we would want to be. So once we kind of figure all this stuff out, then it's time to bring everything together. How are we looking on time?
Got about a half hour left.
About a half hour in this segment. Perfect. Perfect. So what I want to do is let's go ahead and start with the idea that we're going to be coming through. I don't know if we'll have time to start throwing clothes and things like that in the air. But the next thing we want to work through is a relatively difficult element in this photo. It might not wind up being that difficult, but it's the levitation. And basically, there are a lot of ways to do levitation, and some of these are easier, some of these are harder. It depends on your technique. We're basically going to be using a stool, and Sean's going to be leaning back, looking like he's floating in the air. Now, in our heads, this is probably going to look really cool. when he's actually doing it, there's a chance that it just might look weird. Like it might not look natural, it might not look good. So that's why we built in time today to say like, okay, this levitation is what we're gonna try first because it's the easiest, and if it works, it's the safest and it's the best. If it doesn't work, we're gonna try other things, like maybe having you like jump in place, or maybe even bring in a crash pad for you to like jump, actually like fall on these. That'd be pretty fun. You're down with that? Okay, sweet. Well, I'm hoping this doesn't work then. Then we'll get you to fall into a crash pad. So all these things I've done in photo shoots as well. I generally try to do the crash pad very last because it is like, you know, if you're actually falling into something. But we're going to go ahead and have you start levitating. So maybe come out forward just a little bit more for me. There we go, something like that. And the whole goal here is for you to be sitting. I'll just do it if you want me to, because why not? I actually usually will do this on a photo shoot. Sit on this and like, you know, do something like this that you kind of look like you're levitating. And it's gonna be a pretty good core workout. So if you need to take a break, just let me know. I don't want to, you know, hurt you or anything like that. Okay, pretty cool. So that's what is basically gonna be a start of our levitating. There we go. And let's take a shot there, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, you can come back and rest. So we'll talk about this. There we go. Pretty cool. And now we want to talk about, now that he's kind of changed positions, how does everything else look? How does our concept look? How does the image look in relation to what he's doing? And is he well enough defined? Does he look like he's levitating? What do we think here in the audience? You get some feedback?
Yeah, he looks like he's levitating. Maybe if he was a little more engaged in it, maybe a little farther back would be more interesting. I did notice that his leg does come up and cover the background a bit, so we might want to think about positioning on that.
Okay, definitely.
Yeah. Question, when you put something on a platform to levitate, and this is a question I've had forever, is there any considerations at that point where they're at the platform where they meet? Because it's going to squish them flat.
It's totally going to squish them flat, definitely.
So that's just to be expected.
There are a couple things you can do, and that is a really good question. Now, in this shot in particular, because we did design it to actually have clothes being the thing causing that levitation, obviously he's just not like floating for no reason. There are going to be clothes pushing him. We're actually going to safety pin clothes to your existing clothes that will kind of like hang over here, and they're going to cover up that flat spot. Now, if we didn't have that, obviously, we do plan on removing this stool in Photoshop later. But if we didn't have that, what you could do is use like a pen tool and actually cut him out, and then use like a liquefy tool or the transform tool, and then like actually push out that flat spot. Give you your butt back, basically. And there are a lot of other methods to do it. A lot of people, like if you're doing levitation and someone's wearing a dress, let's say Hannah was going to be levitating instead of Sean. What she would do is put maybe like half of her butt on the stool, and then her dress would hang out in front of this. So if we did have like loose clothing or something like that, that can hang out in front of the stool, and then you just cut the stool out, and that'll help out as well. So it totally depends on what type of like levitation or floating you're doing. But in this case, I think it's going to work because we're going to wind up putting the clothes there. All right, this looks pretty good. Now,
suggestions from the internet. Studio Modern suggests more light on Sean. That he's not really defined enough there.
He's not defined enough.
Sark was saying that maybe he should be closer to the camera.
He should be a little bit closer to the camera. Okay, cool. Well, we can definitely try that. Now, if he does get a little bit, we could bring the power up of our strip box that we have there. If he does get a little bit closer, he's going to be more in line with our strip box, which is our main light right up there, and that's going to help light him up a little bit more as well. So let's try that. Sean, if you wouldn't mind, let's come forward a little bit. There we go, right about there. And yeah, looks good. Do your levitation thing. Right on. Maybe put your right leg up a little bit higher if you can. There we go. And if you could levitate towards Hannah. There we go. Really cool. All right, so let's see what that looks like as far as lighting. And during this, we can work on our lighting, but we can also work on our posing and things like that. All right, so let's bring that in. I think in one more shot, we have your leg maybe just a little bit higher up. Let's try it again. Let's bring you back a little bit to make you, and what we want to do is, it's just getting a little bit confusing he's not separated out from the background really well enough, in my opinion, because we kind of lose like part of his foreground. So what we're going to do is, Sean, if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of pull you back, and we have these white washing machines, which is going to do a pretty great job at like separating out him from the background. So if you want to lean and if you could scoot towards this side of the stool, that would be great. And I'm going to go ahead and get here and actually look in frame so I can see what we've got going on. And there we go. If you could put your right leg up and your left arm down, so you're kind of like doing something like that. There we go. And then rotate towards the camera a little bit with your chest. There we go. Very cool. All right, let's check that out. So we can look at these and tell a couple of things. First of all, when he's rotated, perfect. Could we look at this image, Mike, as well as the one before it, if you don't mind?
You made Amanda disappear.
I made Amanda disappear. Oh my gosh, it's magic. Well, that's awesome because we already have her in the frame. And just like we said earlier, she can go about her day, she can do her job, and we can make sure that she will be able to enter the final because she was in the background, she was not interrupted by anything, and in the foreground, all we'll have to do is make sure we cut out Sean's leg if it's going to be over top of her. So that's the beauty of frame compositing.
And a thank you to Amanda for being a very good sport.
Did you see her hair? Amazing. So back to our image. Basically, we've got a couple different options, and we're looking here at posing now with Sean. And we've got, can you guys tell me, like, kind of between the left and the right, what do you guys like a little bit? What do you like more? The right. Everyone likes the right more, and it's probably pretty obvious. But should I ask why?
Well, it's more animated, number one, and since he's turned slightly to the camera, you can see him. So it's part of the reason we have him here. So I would think that'd be a good thing.
Perfect.
Yeah. So he's engaging the camera more.
Perfect. He's definitely engaging the camera more, and this is it. These are great points. We want to make sure that we're posing. I mean, we're doing a levitation floating type shot, but we want to make sure at the same time that you're posing in a way that's going to be interesting to the camera. So this, it still might look like you are levitating, but facing away from the camera, this is, the line on your body is just not as interesting, and we're not seeing your face. So here, where you're facing towards the camera, it is quite a bit more. Interesting. And I do think
I was going to say something. A shout out from the internet right now. Jif Pony is saying that the male model, you're still losing his chest and arm in the machine. That was something that they noticed, and the coloring of the shirt and the front area are too close, so it kind of just blends. The foreground of Sean's shirt blends into the background of the wash machine's window.
That's a good point. Okay, perfect. Yeah, the coloring, basically we've got a gray shirt on Sean and then this kind of like color back here. So we got a couple options. We could see about like opening that window, but I believe it's still dark in there, or Sean could change his shirt, right? Are you cool doing that? Yeah, let's go for it. Maybe put on something like a little bit brighter, maybe like a lighter blue or something like that. Yeah, let's try it.
See if we can pull something out of the laundry.
Yeah,
here.
pull something. You don't have to change in front of everyone, by the way. It's not that type of photo shoot.
Another
Just keep going with it. Yeah, those pants won't work either.
Another suggestion from the internet, this one from Tommy Nikon. Place Hannah in front, closer to the camera on the right. Make her the star.
Hannah a little bit closer to the camera. Okay, perfect. And I love all these suggestions. We totally have these options, and Hannah can come closer. There is one thing that we kind of did deal with earlier is as Hannah moves off to the left of the frame a little bit more, she's going to be subject to perspective distortion, which is like pretty much when you're photographing a person, that's pretty much one of the big things you want to avoid. And when doing any type of compositing, if I really did want Hannah to be here on the left side of the frame and have her to be rather large in the left side of the frame, what I would do is I would make sure I would photograph our subject. We would photograph Sean in place, and I would actually move my camera over so she would be the center of the frame, and then I would composite that version of her. That would eliminate perspective distortion, so instead of her being on the outermost side of the frame, she would be then on the center of the frame. Because with perspective distortion, people tend to look really weird. It'll stretch people out in really weird ways. It'll thicken people. Like Hannah, it would actually like make her look a little bit thicker and things like that. Things that you really don't want to do to your subject. They're not going to be too happy with it. But that's definitely, we can definitely give it a try. And if that is the if that's the composition and the framing that we wind up liking the best, then what I would do is shift the camera over, take a couple pictures of her, and then shift that back. But I would definitely wait until the very end to do that. Good suggestion. All right, cool. Who wants to be the clothing thrower? We're not going to do it just yet, but does anyone in the audience want to be the, yeah? Tell me your name again? Gabe. Gabe, okay, Gabe, short for Gabriel. Okay, you introduced yourself as Gabriel earlier. Okay, Gabe, we can be the clothing thrower.
Does Hannah need to keep holding this now during these test shots?
Oh.
I mean, I see you're moving it back and forth.
Is it pretty heavy? We can actually like totally empty this out, right?
Yeah.
It does not have to have anything in it. You left it. Yeah, actually thank you. That's a really good suggestion. Okay, stay considerate of your models, everybody. Don't have them carry something that weighs 20 pounds if they don't need to. Awesome, that looks great. Now we'll see if we're still blending in. If we continue to blend into the background, there's still more things we can do. We have our rim light that's in the back there. We could make sure to bring it more from behind Sean and pump our power up a little bit, which should help kind of define him out from the background a little bit more. So we're going to try this, and you could just stand there like that for a little bit. How are you doing back there, Lee? Great. Yeah? Are you actually reading the magazine?
No, I'm watching you.
Oh, okay, cool. There are other magazines here if you get bored. Your role is to read magazines. Perfect. All right, let's see about this. There we go. Sean looking great. And we'll see if we can address some of those concerns that we had earlier. All right, so is he standing out of the background? He's definitely not blending in here. Is he blending in too much to the washing machine now? What do you guys think? Yeah, a little bit? It's like he's blending into the other thing now. Do we have a different colored shirt? Like maybe something that's a little bit more vivid. In my opinion, he's not blending in too much, but if we could send out a little bit more, that would be kind of cool. Maybe something, oh, with the checkered pattern? Yeah, he's not going to blend into anything with the like plaid pattern. All right. Oh, this is so heavy. Perfect. All right, cool. And while we're taking a break and we've got our Sean is changing his shirt, we'll talk a little bit, Hannah, kind of like posing and things like that. So the inspiration is you're kind of like the spokesperson for this brand, the Wash and Suds. So as Sean's going to be levitating towards you, you're definitely going to be holding it up like, you know, like maybe doing like something really cute, maybe like a leg up or just doing like this and, you know, smiling really big, like, exactly, like that's exactly what we want. And we want this image to be like funny and kind of cheesy. Like, you know, we set up our lighting to be realistic, but like we've got someone levitating in here, like it's totally time to have some fun. So when we actually start to get shooting, like, yeah, put a leg up and be like, you should use this. And I think that's perfect. So that's kind of like getting you into character. Lee, you're doing great. Just continue reading the magazine. And Miguel, you're doing really well as well. So yeah, perfect. Let's try a couple frames like that. If we do, you know, decide to do frame compositing while Sean is out of the frame, we can still take some pictures of Hannah and have her, you know, basically play to the subject here, which it probably would help if he was here, but just pretend like there's a guy here, and we can kind of like get some practice while he's offset. All right, ready? Perfect. Let's lift a leg. I love that. Awesome. Are you sure you don't actually work for Wash and Suds? Beautiful. Maybe bring the jug out to the front a little bit more. Perfect. There we go. Perfect. Let's try putting both feet on the ground. And oh yeah, do the bend forward a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And maybe I'm gonna have you like look directly at the camera because it's supposed to have like kind of like cheesy feel to it. Little bit less of a smile, maybe. Like ooh. There we go. Yes, that's the perfect ooh face. Like ooh, Wash and Suds. Perfect. And if we are gonna have you bending forward like that, let's have you step back just a little bit if you don't mind. There we go. Perfect. And you can kind of bend in, face the camera just a little bit more. There we go. And let's see that ooh face again. Ooh, Wash and Suds. Beautiful. That's awesome. Awesome. Perfect. You can take a quick break. Let's go ahead and look at these frames and we can kind of talk through what we've got here. If we wouldn't mind kind of like flipping back and forth. So, very, very cool. if you wouldn't mind flipping, oh, I guess they're still kind of like loading in. So what do we see here? Any problems or concerns that we see here with Hannah? Does anyone see anything that they would maybe want to fix? No, not yet, huh? Just kind of coming in. I do see a couple of things that I would like to fix. Some of those things are in some of the images. When she's like bending a little bit far forward, the shadows under her eyes tend to be a little bit dark. Especially when you're doing anything like, like beauty or focusing on someone like that, you really don't want those like dark shadows underneath a person's eyes. It's just going to make them look a little bit worse than they need to be. Also, she's like, when her dress is like this, it's really not as well defined. It almost looks like a little bit, it almost looks like just a mass of red instead of like being well defined. So we can take care of this in a couple of ways. The dark shadows that are underneath her eyes, we can take care of that with like a fill or a white card. So John, if we want to bring in a fill card or a white card, we can actually have that directly under, and that should basically take the light that we're using from overhead and fill those shadows in there. So we can use a fill or a white card to kind of like solve some of those problems, and then we can always composite that out afterwards if we need to do that. Or we can use some rim lighting here. Do we have some suggestions from the internet?
Yes, actually, quite a few people are saying that the clock behind Hannah is a little bit distracting. It's like haloing her head and taking away from her expression.
Yeah, it totally does. Yeah, definitely. Can we flip back a couple more and see like maybe if she's off to the left a little bit more, the clock would be, yeah, let's keep going back, maybe somewhere she's off the clock. I wonder, yeah, so here, it was probably like a little bit less distracting, so maybe we should have you step back a little bit when she's doing that. If not, we can totally just take the clock off of the wall, or we have some photos of the clock. You know what, I'll just do this, because it'll be an interesting technique in Photoshop. I'm going to take the clock off the wall, because we already have a picture of the clock, and I'll just put it wherever I want it to be in Photoshop after the fact. How's that?
Boom.
For Photoshop.
It's done.
All right. I hope it's not like glued on here. I'm going to look like an idiot trying to take it off. All right. There we go. Clock is officially off the wall, and if I decide I want it back, I can always put it back in Photoshop because we have a frame. Good point. And a cool teaching point, which is going to be great tomorrow in Photoshop.
And you just made that so simple.
Right?
That was like the most simple scenario,
Yeah.
or solution.
Yeah, take it off.
Yeah.
We already have a picture of it, and we're going to put it back in Photoshop if we need to. All right.
So where do you want to fill from?
Let's try right about over here. The goal when you're using a fill card or something like this, the real goal is to not have it be in frame so you don't have to Photoshop it out later. If it just happens to where we are not going to be able to avoid that, then that's the case. But all right, let's try it again. And we've got a new shirt, and hopefully this blends in with nothing, unless a plaid penguin decides to run behind you. All right, here we go. And 3, 2, 1, and go. If you could step back just a tiny bit, Hannah, that would be great. And 3, 2, 1, and go. Hannah, I'm going to have you more like stand like straight up. We can put both feet on the ground. There we go. And if you could bring your hair the other side. There we go. Bring it more behind. There we go. So we can see. Yep. Beautiful. There we go. Perfect. And then you can look directly. Yeah, let's look at me in a minute. Perfect. You can go ahead and stand straight up, Hannah, if you want. There we go. Perfect. I love it. All right, Sean, how you doing?
Shaking.
It'll add realism to it. You're supposed to look like you're being shaken up. All right. John, if we come in here, I'm still seeing a little bit of dark under Hannah's eyes. So if we could
figure out which light we're...
Oh, I think it would be that light, basically. Okay. Yeah. So this would have to come in. So in the case that we do wind up using this fill card, if we don't take care of this problem in a different way, which I can go about doing that as well. In the case if we do wind up using this fill card, we're going to have to basically have a shot with her face, with just her face, and then take the fill card out so I could use her body and match the same face and the body as well. So let's try it and see if that solves our issue. There we go. And let's just take a look at that shot and see if it does in fact solve our under the eyes. And it's still looking a little bit dark to me. What do we think? So we changed the shirt. Is it better now? Definitely not blending in. Perfect. I think we're definitely looking a lot better. The levitation, is it still looking? I think it looks pretty good, right? I think, Hannah, you're doing a really great job. This definitely looks like real. Yeah, I think the only things that I want to take care of is a little bit, I do like when you're standing straight up because we can see the definition between highlight and shadow on your dress. And I think the ruffles really work well. I would like to fill in a little bit of shadow there on right here. So we do have one more light, and we can go ahead and stick this in there. And this is what it's all about, guys. Let's go ahead and bring our last light in. It should be on our light set. I only brought 6 lights to Creative Live, so if I can't do this in 6, we're just we're gonna have to use flashlights. I don't know.
That brings up an interesting question, actually.
Yeah.
From the internet, everybody's been wondering how many lights you normally use on set. What's the maximum lights you have used?
Oh, that's a really good question. Okay. I really like using lighting. It's one of the things that I love about photography. Some of the people that I know who are amazing photographers don't use any lights at all because that's not what they love about photography. So by any means, I do not think that using lights makes you a good photographer or that you need to use them to be a good photographer. I don't think that. It's just one of the things that I really love. And in my opinion, I use as many lights as possible to get the shot to be great. A lot of my photographs are taken with a little bit more on the quote-unquote fine art side, where people actually have like pretty dark shadows on them. I'll take a lot of photographs where people are rim lit, maybe from the side, where I'm using just one light and maybe it has a gel on it too, but you can't really see a whole lot of detail with that person. So in those cases, I'll really only use like maybe 1 or 2 lights. In this case, where we have an entire scene, we have our subjects back there, we've got subjects in the foreground, we've got subjects in the immediate foreground. We want to make sure she looks beautiful, we want to make sure he looks levitating and he's separated from the background. When we have all those things to consider, we're going to take light, we're basically using lights for each one of those different subjects. And we're kind of like imitating the light that would actually, happen in a laundromat, which you would totally have like, lamps and overhead lighting and maybe window lighting and things like that. So we're kind of using all those things. Today, I only brought 6 strobes with me to
So
to
you want a
Seattle.
grid on tight grid on her face from camera, or
Yeah, what do we have as far as modifiers go?
How many 7-inch reflectors did you bring?
2.
So there should be one hiding someplace.
1 hiding someplace. All right, let's use 1 7-inch reflector with a grid shooting from down below up, and if we match that, with our ambient, then that should fill in the shadows that are just underneath her eyes. So we're just solving a little bit of these problems here. And use as many lights as possible. The most lights that I've ever used, I think 15 or 16 lights on an image. But I was trying to do like some special effects crazy stuff. So that was like, I don't normally do that many things. And maybe we could use a control arm so it could come from below.
Do you want it from below, or do you want it from camera access at her just to fill the face?
Good point. Let's try bringing it over here,
okay.
if you wouldn't mind, John.
No, not at all.
But that height could work. And we do want to put a grid on it. The tough thing about when we're doing this sort of thing is I'm basically just trying to like fill in some shadows here that are on our subject's face. The tough part about that is if our lighting ratios aren't right, she's just going to get a blast of light in her face and it's going to look like it's going to look lit and it's going to look totally weird. So that's a little bit more difficult. I think it probably has to come a little bit closer.
Yeah, I just want to get electricity.
Oh, cool. We have an extension cord there.
Hey, Aaron, using this technique, if you were to need a 7th light, or you didn't bring 6 lights, could you steal a light from somewhere else in your set, use it because you've already shot whatever it's lit?
That's a really good question. And it totally depends on how, quote unquote, important that light is and what it is lighting. Light, it's like splashes of water. It affects everything. We've got, a light up here, but that's lighting, it's lighting the washing machines. It's causing shadows. It's lighting Hannah a little bit. It's even probably spilling back and hitting Lee a little bit. It's lighting our floor. So it's bouncing around and hitting quite a few different things. So I would generally try to not do that. But if we did, if it was something that looked like that where we super needed to have a fill light here with Hannah, what I would do instead is figure out, and I was limited on the amount of lights, I would figure out what other light in my image is not important, and then I would remove that one. In this case, I might go ahead and take this light out because I already have some photographs of this, and if it wasn't shining a lot of light here and then back down, then all I would use is this part of the image in the last frame. So as long as the light wasn't hitting back on the ground very harshly, then I think that would wind up working pretty well. Let's get it maybe a little bit closer if we can. And what we want to do is basically just, because it does have a grid on it, if you look straight into a grid, here we go. Can we get a camera on this grid? Yeah? Okay, cool. So if a camera or your subject, this is how I always tell if a light is pointing at a subject. If you're looking straight into the grid, you can actually see the light. But as the grid turns off to the side, you start to not be able to see the light that's coming through it, if that's the entire point of a grid, right? So what I basically do is whenever I'm working with a subject and I want to make sure that they have a fill light on their face, I'll just ask them if they can see directly into the light. And what do we think? There we go. Cool. And as long as they can see directly into the light, then we're good. And the light is in fact shining on their face. So I'm going to use a relatively low power here. And there we go. We're also going to turn our modeling light off now that we know it's shining pretty much directly into Hannah's face. And then we're going to try another picture. Why not? All right. Chances are this is going to look horrible. The exposure is probably not at all correct. Her face is probably going to be blown out. But we have to just wait and see. Yeah, way, way too bright, right?
Yeah.
So let's bring our exposure down just a little bit. There we are. All right, let's bring it a little bit more on camera axis. I think you were right with that, John. There we go. And then we'll rotate it around so Hannah can see directly into the light. Perfect. All right, there we are. And beautiful. How are we looking here? Let's see. I think we could probably wind up pulling the power back up just a little bit, John. There we are. And let's try it again. All right. Now, as lighting gets more and more specific, just like we're doing in this shot, you kind of lose a little bit of your leeway. Like if she decides she's going to move like a foot or two to the left or the right, we're going to lose, she's not going to be lit the same. So it's just a compromise that we're going to wind up having to make. Do we want to make sure she stays right there and she's lit perfectly? Or do we want to let it be a little bit free and maybe she just has a little bit darker shadows under her eyes? It's a choice that we'll wind up having to make. The other thing we could do is we could wind up bringing up our fill light in general, and that would help out with the dark area under our eyes. Can we zoom in, Mike, if you're listening? Can we zoom into Hannah's eyes and just see if we conquered that fill light issue? Yeah, I think it's pretty nice. I mean, we still see a decent bit of definition. It's probably like a little bit overexposed. Maybe we could, John, I think you're right. I think we could bring that back on axis just a little bit more. Oh, and when I say on axis, I mean on
camera.
Yeah, I'm not explaining it to you, by the way. I was explaining to everyone else. When I say on axis, that basically means on the axis of the camera, so more towards like where that position of the camera is.
Yeah. Is that blocking still? And
all right.
Is it on you? Okay.
And what degree spot do we have on there? 10, perfect. So a 10-degree spot grid is going to be a lot more concentrated. 20 is going to be like this, 30, and then 40 degrees. And especially if something is this far away from your subject, we do want it to be nice and focused. So let's go, I think 10 will look good. And let's see what we've got. And then I might have Mike kind of zoom in to Hannah and see how that looks. You guys are doing great, by the way. Thank you for all your patience. There we go. Can everyone see how she's lit quite a bit better? Maybe, Mike, I don't know if you can do this, but if you can find a shot, maybe like go 10 back where she's got, where we did not bring that fill light in. And we can probably see the difference. And then there we go. Something like that. Yeah, that's a perfect example. That one and the latest one. And if you bring those up and then zoom in, hopefully zoom into her face, it should zoom into both of them. No? You can only zoom into one at a time?
Oh, there it is.
There we go. Okay, perfect. So there we can see the difference. And hopefully that helps out everyone here and everyone watching at home as well. So this is the whole point. This is doing a couple of things for us. First is we've got, our gorgeous subject here. We want to make sure she does in fact look good. And it's not that she looks bad here, but she's not really well lit. Our exposure isn't perfect here. It's a tiny bit overexposed, so we can pull it down. But it should be pretty clear that this not only is, it's carving her face out a little bit more with the highlights and the shadows that are on her face, but it's just lighting it up. And the dark areas here that are under her eyes are tending, especially because we do have kind of like dark eyes, you know, dark eye makeup and dark eyes in general, it's kind of bringing those down. The other really cool thing is we're getting a little bit of a catch light here in her eyes, which just makes her look like magical, and she's got like a little bit of that sparkle going on, which like for the Wash and Suds girl, like you totally want sparkle in your eyes. So can everyone see the difference? It's pretty cool, right? It's still, in my opinion, it's too harsh. It's just a little bit too harsh, but we can see we're definitely on the right path. For Sean, you don't matter as much. No. I'm playing around. But you're not like the pretty girl spokesperson, so we don't need all the sparkle in your eyes. But you're actually lit really well because you've got a softbox directly back on you. All right, let's try it again, guys. We're getting pretty close. Is everyone excited how this shot's like evolving? It's pretty cool, right? There we go, gorgeous. So we've done all this stuff, and we're building up towards a really wonderful image and a great composite. All right, let's zoom that in. Maybe we could bring up the power just a little bit here. Let's zoom in there and we can see what we've got. Gorgeous. Now, we are getting a couple of things that I would love to talk about here as well. The shadow here that's happening on Hannah's face, what do you guys think that shadow is from? It's from her hair, right? Okay, so if we didn't want that, all we would have you do is like pull your hair back. I think it would be on this side. There we go. If the shadow was from something like this, the Wash and Sud, we could pull that back. I really like the light that we've got coming on here. Does anyone, maybe we could zoom out, Mike, and see so everyone can try to figure out where this highlight coming on from the Wash and Suds, can we figure out where's that highlight coming from? John, you're not supposed to say. You're part of the setup.
But I could see it from here. I'm going, that's got to move. That's got to move.
No, he's totally right. We've got a background light that's back here with a white card, and that's creating that's a bare bulb back there, and that's creating that reflection. All right, we're going to put a camera right back there. So that's that bare bulb light that's kind of like shining back, which is giving our subject just that little bit of rim light on there, and it's lighting up our Wash and Suds, which it really does make it look more like, you know, it's a product and things like that. If we could, Mike, if you don't mind zooming in here to the back of Sean's head, we're going to stare at the back of Sean's head. So the separation that we see here between the highlight that we see, especially on the back of his neck and things like that, that's coming from our strip box, which is right behind him as well. So each one of these lights we can see is starting to serve a purpose. Now we do see just a little bit of shadow here under Sean's eyes. So the only thing we have to do that is make sure, Sean, when we're posing, you'd make sure you're not looking down. If you're looking up, then the light that's right above you is going to catch right there, and it's going to make sure that you're wonderfully lit just like Hannah. So all these cool little things that we're doing with our lighting is really coming together, and in our next section we're actually going to start the levitation, and we're going to start pulling all of our efforts together to make this image really, really great as a final. But could we pull up like this versus the starting shot, like where we first started, where the room was dark even? Like keep on going up, Mike, where the room was just dark and we had almost nothing in there. There we go. Yep, that one is perfect. So we started off with that, guys. We started off with that, and we've just been placing lights around and playing them around, and we can see we're starting to carve out each one of our subjects and build this light in a really interesting, cool, creative way. And I hope you guys have really enjoyed this segment because it's been a lot of fun for me, and I hope it's been fun for you guys too.
I think it's definitely been fun for everyone who's been watching. So thank you for everything. We will be taking a 45-minute lunch break, and when we come back, what are we going to be doing?
When we come back, we're going to start having a lot of fun. If you guys liked the pool segment yesterday where there was a lot of giggling going on, the same thing's going to happen when we come back. We're going to be levitating. We're going to be throwing things in the air. You guys are going to be interacting. We're going to get you guys actually like acting back and forth. We're going to get Sean, I'm going to ask you to like yell and shout like, oh my God, what's happening? All this kind of stuff. We're going to actually like get into it and make this movement happen. Even Lee in the background is going to be like, what? It's going to be really, really fun.
That is awesome. I can't wait. Just a quick quote from the internet for you. Tiago Cristo says, I'm learning so much at this workshop, especially with the lights.